Alright, this is the third meet of the week. I'm recording this before I recorded the other one because I'm stupid. And today, we're talking about the thing in itself, which is an idea by Immanuel Kant. And so basically, part of Immanuel Kant's philosophy was that, as y'all remember last week, he had this emphasis on you need the relationship between how your brain interprets information and the information itself. And so part of that philosophy was that you do have the kind of, raw experience of something. Like, let's say a beam of light hits your eyes. Like, let's say you have the sun right here, beams of light are going off of it, and here's you. Let me draw a little brain. And as that light is going into your eyes, your brain has an interpretation of that, and it'll interpret it as like being, depending on what it reflects off of, like something that's blue, red, green, something that looks fuzzy, something that looks hard, something that looks soft, that sort of thing. But his big conclusion, the big thing that he added to philosophy was this idea that the way that we perceive the world and the way that the world is in itself are different. So you have things as we perceive them, things as, I'm just going to say perceived, and things in themselves. To give kind of a more practical example of what this is like kind of getting at, with light, you have like the visible light spectrum, which is just like red, orange, yellow, blue, violet, indigo, and the other one that I forgot. But beyond that, you have stuff like ultraviolet light, you have stuff like stuff like that. These are things that exist, but just aren't like on a daily basis perceived. And so, different animals have different levels of interpretation. So like, for instance, a mantis shrimp, I'm gonna do my best drawing of a shrimp. A mantis shrimp can see, a wide array of colors. Like for us, it's like the main 7, but they have about I think 12. Their eyes, the thing that you use to see like colors, that being like photoreceptors, that's something that we have I think 12, and we have 4, and they have about 12 to 16. So you're even bees also have something similar to that. I'm gonna do a very off drawing of a bee. Yeah, that's good enough. Yeah. So bees can see, I think it's ultraviolet light or something like that. And so the kind of conclusion that Kant makes from this is that things in themselves, the way that they actually are, is something that by definition you can't fully know. You can look at an apple and be like, okay, this is hard, this is red, this is sweet, this is what they do. But to actually understand what that is, in itself, you can't do, because you're using your brain to interpret stuff. And since you're using your brain to interpret something, you're limited insofar as your brain is capable of understanding something. If that makes any sense.
Okay.
And so, And so, because it's, to him, according to Immanuel Kant, it's impossible to understand the world in itself, the more practical thing to do is to focus on what is within, the ability to, reason. So, stuff like figuring out what's right and wrong, stuff like how does the world work, stuff like, kind of stuff that it was within your daily field of vision is the sort of stuff that you should be focused on. So So one example of his idea of how the world is more complex than we perceive it was he made this very bold claim that space and time are not real. I don't know how true that is from a scientific perspective, but just kind of giving you an idea, like what kind of like the image that he might have had in his mind.
Time, I don't know how true it is, but time is like supposedly perceived differently by like different animals and such.
Yeah.
So that could be like kind of into it.
Yeah, there is some stuff about the theory of relativity I wanted to bring up that kind of relates to this.
Like different parts of the universe. It's just like it's a little wonky.
Yeah, like he's kind of right about like time as far as I understand it. Like the way time works according to the theory of relativity is that it's like relative.
Yeah.
So let me try. Okay, so here is a graph. And so I have like 3 dimensions here, right? I have height, wideness, and thickness. And so that's not the actual words, I'm just using the simplest English I can find. But you know, something can be like over here, or over here, or over here, or wherever. But I can't talk about things without like time, right? So it's also important to know when something happens. Time is needed. And so one of the consequences of this idea is that you know like in like sci-fi movies whenever they'll go to the past and it's like its own little place.
Yeah.
So I don't know how accurate this is. I'm not a physicist, but this is where the idea comes from. So the perception of time is also very subjective. Like there's this one example where like if I have a twin and one of them goes up to space for like so much time at like such a fast speed, we'll age differently.
It's like Interstellar.
Yeah, like Interstellar. Yeah, there is actual. Apparently, there's real signs in that.
Yeah, there is. It's actually super. It's a great movie.
I really want to watch it.
It's one of the best movies I think I've ever watched.
Yeah. Honestly, I really want to do like a philosophy club like movie night or something.
Yeah, I think it's really cool.
Yeah. But so in a lot of senses, like Immanuel Kant was actually pretty correct in saying that there's a difference between the world as we perceive it and the world as it is, and that we're limited to what we can like see.
Yeah.
So this is just a really cool concept.
Yeah.
I don't really have a lot more to say as far as Immanuel Kant goes. It is kind of cool to think about. Like there's just so much more stuff in the world than like you can even like see. Yeah.
It's my alarm.
Oh, you're right. So is there anything y'all want to add to the board? Add in general?
I think so.
You're right.
No.
You're right.
What?
Are you right? Just like leaving this here?
No, I'm good.
Okay. What do we use well? Okay. So this gives me a segue to talk about my favorite philosopher that I'm very excited to talk about. So basically, going back to things in themselves, right? This is a very important concept in philosophy, right? It was him and Rene Descartes who really got down the idea that, the perception of things can be kind of fuzzy, that, you kind of have to be like careful, that you have to be very deliberate and that sort of thing. And so this is a very important concept, right? And one of the philosophers that this influenced was my boy. I don't know if I should be super excited about him because he's kind of a bad person, but he's a very good philosopher. Schopenhauer.
I feel like I've heard of him before.
Yeah. Schopenhauer is known as the Great Pessimist, which is a lovely title. I'm not going to get into that now because I'm in a good mood, but basically he took the idea that that these ideas, that the difference between the world as we see it and the world as it actually is true, but he took the idea that that things are impossible to understand and that we should only focus on like practical kind of matters, he thought was false. So there are different interpretations of, or there's different like ways of looking at Kant's philosophy, and there's different influences that he had. To Schopenhauer, he thought that you could know the thing in itself, and that was through intuition, which basically means like instead of needing like reasoning to understand something or being able to see it, it's just like that kind of immediate knowledge, that kind of immediate sense of like, hold on, let me get to that in a second. So, can understand. I'm gonna put T-I. I'm not gonna put T-I-T. That's not a good idea, Jordan. That spells something naughty. Can understand. Just gonna put. This is the German for it. I'm probably misspelling that if I'm being honest, but who cares? But you know, his idea was that you can understand the thing in itself via your intuition. And so specifically, his conclusion was that your intuition is, you have this just basic immediate sense that like, I'm a person, I have a will, I have directions that I like take in life. And so his idea was that was the thing in itself, that was the best way that you can describe the world beyond perception. Let me put, I'll just put D-I-S, because that's not a naughty word. Is the will. And so I'm not going to get too far into him, but you know, this is another idea that I wouldn't say it's important in philosophy, but it's not like Immanuel Kant important. Schopenhauer was a very influential philosopher. He influenced like Einstein, a bunch of the founding like quantum physicists. He influenced like a lot of artists and that sort of thing. And he has a special, well, his philosophy has a special place in my heart. I don't know about him. Another philosopher that you kind of see who has a philosophy like this, or kind of has a philosophy that bases or has any sort of relation to this, is Spinoza. Let me just go ahead and get rid of this. I don't really need it anymore. I was wondering why I had time is needed on there. I got confused. But basically, another philosopher had another interesting idea was Spinoza. And so Spinoza pretty much took all of these ideas. He took basically just these general concepts. Let me just try to... There's so many lines on here. It's so messy. So he took all of those ideas, or at least he had similar ideas. And similar ideas. I cannot remember for the life of me if he read Kant or not. I don't think he did. And so the conclusions that he made was like he tried to describe how, more kind of like practically and almost like mathematically, how the world in itself works. And so his idea was that, you know, our experience of the world is divided between, I can't remember what terms he used. I think it was extension and thought, which basically means that you look at the world through like space, and then you understand it through like your own thoughts and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But his idea was that alongside these, you also had infinitely different modes. Infinitely. And so ultimately, he thought that all these different modes, all these different ways that the world works, are a part of one substance, is the word that he uses. This is a very abstract word. I've been familiar with Spinoza for a while, and I've even tried to read the Ethics, which is his main seminal work where he talks about this. And I don't know exactly how to explain this because I don't fully understand it either. But basically, it's this idea that every piece of matter, every piece of space, all of that is, fundamentally made of like the same thing.
Yeah.
So, one substance, and so he was also influential in Einstein. One substance contains all time, space, thought, etc. And so, very influential on Einstein. Very controversial in his time. He's considered a pantheist, which basically means that he thought that God was the universe,
Yeah.
and so that got him into a lot of
I've heard
trouble.
of that, yeah.
Yeah. Both of these are some of my favorite philosophers. I have a favorite for Schopenhauer, but this is basically, kind of, I guess, kind of the most abstract lesson that I can give today. But yeah, what do y'all think?
I like it. What is a mode exactly?
So a mode, yeah, actually, I should have
Yeah.
explained that more. So a mode is this definition that Spinoza gives for you have something, you have just a thing like water, and there's different ways that it can be expressed. So, fundamentally, I'm getting probably out of the way of this camera. I'm gonna have to figure something out. So, is it fine or?
Yeah, you're going. You still have that wrong over there.
Okay.
It's capturing you.
So, just. So, fundamentally, water is made up of, let me see, what is it? 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. And so that's just millions and billions and trillions and quadrillions of H2O atoms or particles that are just kind of together.
Yeah.
And so that one thing can be expressed as vapor, water, ice, plasma. And so Spinoza's idea was that there was this one, substance that he pretty much just called nature that encompassed everything, like thought, matter, space, all that stuff. And, then other stuff that would be beyond human perception.
Okay.
So does that make more sense?
Yeah, a little bit.
He's pretty interesting. He's pretty controversial. I feel a little scared talking about him in a Christian school.
Yeah.
But
I've kind of looked into that though, just a tiny little bit.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a weird way of thinking.
yeah. If you, there are more digestible things on this. I think, actually, no, I was about to recommend the Tao Te Ching, but that's pretty hard to read. But yeah, that's probably about as far as I can go with this. What do you think, Isabella? Do you have any questions? So I guess kind of my question that I have now is what is one thing in the world that y'all think would be kind of an example of it exists, but you don't people don't fully understand it, even if they do see it and perceive it?
Like anything?
Just anything.
Anything. Would air count?
Yeah, I guess that actually would count, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's there, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Philosophying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of some way to spark a dialogue. 'Cause that's like the main thing I really wanted to like do with this. I guess, is there anything like abstract that y'all like to, that y'all think's like cool or like that sort of thing?
I really like octopus, or really any cephalopods.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, octopus are pretty interesting. One of the,
Yeah, I like I like how they can change colors, but a lot of times it's like studied that they can't like see a lot of colors. with their
really,
own eyes, yeah.
huh?
So it's like they have like something called photophores, I'm pretty sure, or something like that. And basically, it's like they like touch and feel the color, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
their brains.
So like they're feeling like what the color of something.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's really cool.
And they can also kind of change their whatever it is. They can change their body basically.
Yeah.
Feel too.
Well, one of the cool things about like octopi is that like they have a brain, but they have like a lot of their neurons and like all their like brain stuff
It's
like
all over their body.
yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really weird to think about because like their arms kind of act like independently somewhat.
Yeah.
So it's like what is it like to be an octopus?
Oh yeah,
That's
I would love to find out.
like
It's
random.
probably my favorite sea creature.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love the ocean.
I think I did part of the paper for this class for Miss C's on that.
I don't know. I should.
What about you, Isabella? Is there anything that like abstract that you think's like kind of hard to understand? That you like think about or think is cool?
Religion?
Yeah, religion's a good one. Yeah.
It's a very good one.
Because everybody perceives it differently.
Yeah. Is there any like specific example you can think of?
Not really. I
Like-
think just the entirety of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like everyone perceives the idea of God differently.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
That's a big thing.
Yeah,
If
like
not differently, it's like very, very close. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's one of the things that like there's just kind of like there's so much debate over like what
Yeah.
the universe is supposed to be like. Just like not just in the sense like how does like the laws work, like why do the laws work?
Yeah.
Like what are like the abstract stuff that you can like
Just
talk
like
about?
why? Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean that's another good one. I mean I think Immanuel Kant said something about like I mean you have a lot of different ways of looking at God. It's kind of
It's
might
a
be-
lot.
it might be an interesting topic. Like
That would be.
I think Immanuel Kant's opinion was that like stuff like God and like the human soul was like stuff that was kind of like beyond human perception and kind of like something you can't like understand. I think in his view that necessitated faith, but I'm not sure. Again, I didn't study for this that much. But yeah,
Yeah. Like as of right now, it'd be almost, if not impossible, to perceive God fully. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
yeah. One of the things that I really like thinking about is like just the idea that there is like so many different like the way that the universe works, the laws that govern it, and like what it is in itself is just so there's so much to that like you will never turn over every stone.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't know, it's kind of cool to think like there were probably like some laws of physics that affect our daily lives like we just don't know
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. I mean, there's gotta be.
It's a really interesting thought. Well, I guess I'm probably gonna stop recording this. If y'all want to maybe try and stay in here for a few more minutes, give Miss Meredith like
Yeah.
time to get in here, that might be a good idea. But yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to dare to know and buy my self-help book. Yeah.